Holy shit. That was so good. That was like, I think that's like the best action movie like of all time. Oh my god. Thank you. Jesus. This is so good. So, Mission Impossible Fallout, is it the perfect action movie? No, but cinema is an art form and therefore cannot achieve true perfection, which is something I should make a video on in the future. But, is it the best movie out of all action movies? Well, I mean no. Action movies such as The Dark Knight, The Matrix, Captain America Civil War are much better than any Mission Impossible installment, outfitted with stories of philosophical and socio-political themes, excellent character arcs, just generally great storytelling as well. But what about solely as an action movie? While all three of those aforementioned movies are certainly great movies in terms of their action and thrills, from The Dark Knight's tension to The Matrix's westernisation of Kung Fu, and Civil War's blending of grounded action with Marvel's signature superpower alchemy, Fallout is kind of the ultimate daddy of action cinema, and I'm meant to prove that in this video. So, well, of course, this is my opinion based off of my experiences of this movie, so I guess the best way to convince you this movie is the ultimate action movie is to stick matchsticks in your eyes and force you to watch it. Fallout's original script was very loose and incomplete. It was only 33 pages long, but writer-director Christopher McQuarrie, all praise to him, is an improvisational master, essentially redoing the third act of Rogue Nation. Fallout's story is sort of a blend of many action movie tropes. There's a nuclear subplot, a traitor in the team, deals, MacGuffins, whatever, but Fallout takes these plot points and does them so damn well, and in a way, this is a product of its very improvised screenplay. Take The Dark Knight for example. The Joker's plan is so meticulously written and clear, and that's great. On the other hand, people may see Fallout's
so fucking complicated
plot as a weakness, but
to me, that's your greatest strength.
Do you ever make a decision that seemed inconsequential at first, but forces you into really difficult situations? At school or at home? Well, this is what happens to Ethan Hunt in this movie. Because of his unwillingness to sacrifice Benji and Luther, he finds himself ever tangled in a web that he just cannot see outside of. The audience is confused and overwhelmed.
How do I know CIA puzzles? What difference does it make?
This guy is overwhelmed just like us. Now, the screenplay might not even have a character arc for Ethan Hunt, but it is obsessed with establishing conflicts and ticking time bombs so that on the first viewing you have no clue what's going to happen. Oh no, the bombs went off. Never mind. The CIA is interfering. They can't use a masterful log. Hunt will have to go in himself. What's he also doing here? Hunt's going to have to pretend to be a mass murderer. Will he kill police officers to save millions? He also needs to kill Lane, but Hunt cannot let that happen. The White Widow wants Hunt to bring Ilsa in. Hunt's being framed for being Larg. Granted, many of these don't resolve naturally in the third act because of the patchy writing process, but in the moment every scene is full of tension as Hunt slides down the slippery slope he puts himself on. There are the twists. Twice does the audience believe the bombs go off. Granted, this shot was unplanned. As much as the audience is with Ethan, he is ahead of us, and occasionally we are ahead of him. This constant seamless shifting between suspense, mystery, surprise and dramatic irony makes for one of the most dynamic and riveting thrillers you can get. Fallout also reunites Hunt with his ex-wife Julia, providing a satisfying resolution to that story thread from MI3. It provides a personal stake to the climax so the typical nuclear bomb subplot doesn't just feel like a trope for trope's sake. It's also personal because of how the movie begins to place Ethan in complex moral situations. I've mentioned the inciting incident in Berlin, but the shit he goes through because of his unwillingness to let this police officer die, or these, while not properly exploring morality compared to movies like Prisoners, makes the story much more interesting and meaningful. It isn't too much the movie trying to be thematically ambitious, and more so a result of McQuarrie's naturally excellent writing. All of the actors bring their A game, with Simon Pegg's humour, Ving Rhames' down-to-earthness. Cavill really loses himself in this CIA hammer character, and villain who is an excellent foil to Cruise's scalpel, and Ferguson, who was 7 months pregnant by the end of production, is both badass and vulnerable. Of course, Cruise is nothing short of the best action star of all time, but his performance as a character, physically during the action and between the action, is also excellent. Unlike the stories of The Rock and Jason Statham's ego trips during Hobbs and Shaw, Cruise lets himself get beaten up, winded, lets himself be seen emotionally vulnerable, sometimes even terrified, and of course it isn't that Ethan Hunt manages to do all these crazy things. The thrills, tension and the story comes from the fact that he barely manages. The movie was filmed on 75mm anamorphic film, which looks absolutely gorgeous. Except for the skydiving and helicopter scenes, for time and weight. Both of those sequences, the aspect ratio shifts from 2.39 to 1.90, that's right, IMAX. Rob Hardy, the cinematographer, is one of the best in the business, and like Roger Deakins, shoots as much as possible himself, including the action, operating the A camera himself. The practicality of the film helps. There is much more freedom with the camera. That and the gorgeous locations that Hardy and McQuarrie had the pleasure of capturing, from Paris to London, New Zealand, Pulpit Rock and Essex. Hunt is often framed around pieces of mise en scène that seem to, quote, disappear into infinity, to visualise the story of him being forced down a road he does not want to take. A lot of the time, you can't even see the corners of the room, semi-consciously making the audience feel tense. Close-ups often have characters facing away from the centre of the frame, making them feel entrapped. Gaffer Martin Smith did an excellent job at painting the scene with lights and shadows. The majority of the lighting is tungsten, giving the movie a grimy, grungy sort of look, but still natural. The single source lighting of the Grand Palais rave is inspired by a Tate Modern Art installment. Meanwhile, the subsequent bathroom scene is lit harshly, making you feel like a cockroach on the kitchen floor. And the bottom up lighting in this scene is sinister. The purpley look in this scene is stunning. McQuarrie's directing is meticulous and methodical, and this method extends to Eddie Hamilton's editing. Hamilton managed to cut 70 hours of helicopter footage down to 20 minutes. Decisive editing which is evident given the fact that they cut out a whole stunt from the Grand Palais sequence and the forest sequence in the third act. If it can go, it should go, and that is their mantra. McQuarrie encountered tons of problems during production, from Baldwin and Cruise's injuries to only having 90 minutes per day to shoot at the Arc de Triomphe. Not only did he take it in his stride, but he made it his greatest strength. McQuarrie's directing is smart and intentional. For example, he doesn't use temp music and doesn't rely on coverage. In fact, the 161-day production and post-production were so intensive that the film was completed less than 3 weeks before the premiere. I mean, look at this shot. It conveys Hunt's dilemma perfectly, showing the briefcase with the plutonium, then going back to the car with the open door, and the road by which Hunt can escape, before pulling back and racking focus to Hunt's face as he makes this decision. And here are some dual shots where multiple things happen in the frame, delivering information to the audience as efficiently as possible, as well as establishing geography and tension, but I'll delve into that a bit more later. Fallout is a masterclass in just the mere basics of directing. Take Chekhov's gun, the setup and payoff. Here are some great examples of it that McQuarrie utilises.
The IMF is Halloween, Alan.
Nothing but grown men wearing
Rubber mask playing trick or treat.
This is the phone we pulled off the dead body at the Grand Palais.
And this shot provides exposition about the tracker in Lane's neck with zero dialogue. So, the score and the sound. Lorne BALFE began writing the score 2/3 into production, writing large suites of music for the editing department to overlay onto the visuals and the soundscape. BALFE has been an assistant to the great Hans Zimmer, which does help to explain the similarities between Fallout's score and that of Inception and The Dark Knight. There's that grand, epic Hollywood feel to it. Hell Stairs and Rooftops sounds like a superhero theme. Listen to how he extends these notes in the title sequence. But it does know when to calm down, when to be sinister, suspenseful, even intimate and emotional. But the score remains definitively Mission Impossible, with the main leitmotif from the theme, those 3 notes, being the basis for a large majority of the score. Yeah, there are the strings and the Zimmer bombs, but my favourite sound that BALFE uses is that of the bongos. It has that 60s retro spy vibe, but made more again Zimmer-esque and grand, with 12 bongo players playing at the same time. Supervising sound editor James Maffer and his team nailed the sound on the head. the action sequences wouldn't be half as intense without the sound design. Well, of course, Fallout is an action movie first and foremost, even more so than its predecessors, switching out fun and intelligent heists and stealth missions for grander set pieces. One may miss the likes of the Burge and Opera House sequences from Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, and so does Hunt. Things are going way out of control for this guy. The first big set piece is the Halo jump. The movie starts hard and launches you right into it with an IMAX sequence. Glorious. 1.9:1 IMAX, which is even on the standard DVD, which is a godsend. Look, I'm not trying to delve into the details of how they perform the stunts practically. I'd recommend just watching the behind the scenes content, in which Cruise and McQuarrie explain it better than I ever could. Sure, Paris below them is CG'd, but there's an authenticity to the jump that just could not be captured without doing it for real. The velocity of 265 to 320 km/h can't really be replicated like this in any other way. The extensive marketing about the practicality of the stunts is a rare case in which knowledge about a movie's production enhances the viewing. We've seen characters on the big screen jump out of planes before, but not only is Ethan Hunt doing it, but Tom Cruise is. And so the scene doesn't try too hard to be crazy, it's merely an oxygen tank replacement in mid-air, and that's enough. The impressive choreography that was a year in planning of the divers and the camera allows the audience to connect with Hunt by keeping the camera in front of Cruise for the majority of the sequence so we can see him and his reactions to the events, therefore boosting our reaction. And not to forget, they had only 3 minutes each day to get the shot during sunset. They ended up shooting over 106 jumps to get the 3 perfect shots necessary to stitch into the long take, let alone the 5 jumps a day for practice. And let's not forget the man, Craig O'Brien, who had to do the jump facing up with a 20-pound red weapon camera with an IMAX lens strapped to his head. The bathroom and cliff-tops fights are both excellent, the first establishing the relative fighting abilities to raise the stakes for the climax. The fight between Benji and Ilsa and Lane is also very effective and tense. The John Wick series is admittedly the champion of modern hand-to-hand combat fight scenes. Although their gun-through is great, John Wick 3 really doubles down on close proximity combat, letting the camera sit back and watch the choreography play out for about a minute on end each shot. On the other hand, the Bourne series pioneered shaky cam and quick cutting. The evolution of action cinema is a topic for another video, but my point is that Cruise and McQuarrie sit comfortably in the middle of the two, vouching for as much clarity and geography as possible, but regularly using editing to intensify the punches and kicks. I mean, this bathroom fight was meant to be done in 4 days, but they shot it over 4 weeks instead, just to make sure it's absolutely perfect. The build up to Lane's breaking out is smart. There's a dream sequence of what is expected to happen, with Hunt breaking his moral code. Then we see the convoy fall right into the trap that we've been informed about. But instead what follows is a great scene that intercuts between the truck escape and the breakout of Lane. And look, they did the Inception shot. The bike chase is pretty simple, and like I said before, it doesn't go out of its way to be too crazy. The way it is filmed is intense yet precise and clear with its action and geography. Seeing an actor's face riding a motorcycle without a helmet isn't something we're used to in modern action movies, and that in and of itself really emphasises the danger, as Cruise weaves between 70 perfectly choreographed stunt drivers. Hell, Cruise's safety rig didn't even work, so he just did it without. The following car chase is inspired by the likes of French Connection and Bullet, and the 1976 short film Rendezvous, with no music and a car that isn't too sporty or cool in the slightest. The camera just follows the incredible driving that goes on, nothing too flashy. This is a more personal scene, and see this 180-degree turn? Yeah, stunt drivers train for years to be able to do this. The London chase isn't just great because we see Cruise running and jumping on rooftops in spectacular fashion. I mean, this is candy for the eyes and ears, but he's chasing Walker. The stakes are high, the scene is tense as hell, and it often cuts to Walker walking. The distance between the two clear if you pay attention, and if not, there's literally a visual representation of it on Benji's screen. Of course, Cruise broke his ankle during this great stunt, with a long take build up that really asserts the authenticity of it. If Cruise hadn't gotten up after this, they might not have used his take and the stunt might not be in the movie. And this culminates in an excellent emotional end of Act 2 climax. Okay, the Kashmir sequences. Wow. Cruise's previous stunts have gotten him labelled as insane, but I would definitely disagree. His work with the best skydivers makes sure the stunt drivers he whisks through are perfectly on time, uses wire work when, say, climbing the tallest building in the world. Brave, committed and professional? Hell yes. But piloting a helicopter this close to another, this close to the ground or a canyon, and doing a corkscrew is possibly the first truly dangerous stunt that Cruise has done. But again, Cruise spent over 2,000 hours mastering helicopter flight, and this longline stunt this took 2 years to design and plan, and this really hurt. Many of the shots of crews below, on or in the helicopter look like some sort of documentary or dashcam footage. And that's because these are practically the only shots you can get with a camera, let alone an IMAX camera on a helicopter. And because of that, it feels so real. You can tell crews and cavalry are actually that high up in a flying helicopter. I mean, look at their faces and their hair. Look at the lighting and reflection. Sure, you could recreate it with CG, but in that case they can adjust things like lighting to make every shot look polished and cinematic. The fact that they can't move the real sun around makes it feel so damn real. And yeah, okay, you see this crash? They actually flew this close to each other. Look, this bit is CG, but it's completely necessary to do this bit of CG. The fact that this movie's climax is basically rock climbing is a testament to its faith in itself and how realism just ups the tension and the intensity. Nobody would end a movie on a CG climbing scene, but put your main actor on the side of pulpit rock, and that's basically as climactic as you can get. So, the question that's on everybody's mind is how can they top this? So it's been announced that McQuarrie would stay to direct Mission 7 and 8 in 2021 and 2022. By 8, crews will be 60 years old, and you know what happens when 2 installments in a movie are shot back to back and released year apart. That's right, this is probably going to be a 2-parter to end the series. Cruise and McQuarrie have already got tons of ideas for 7 and 8, and have already done a fair amount of location scouting. McQuarrie says he wants to apply an emotional arc to every character in the next 2 movies, and I mean, they've casted a bunch of new actors. Hayley Atwell's supposed to be playing an ambiguous destructive force of nature, and even Kittredge is returning. They say what will happen in 7 and 8 are too insane for them to have to go to space to top Fallout. So what do I think should happen? Well, it doesn't matter what I think should happen. Honestly, whatever ideas I'd be most proud of, McQuarrie would throw away in a heartbeat. I guess all we have to do is sit and wait for what will probably be